Dakota First. KX News at 10 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Lauren Colbert.
And I'm Nicholas Wallach. Thanks for watching KX News. Tribal lands all over the U.S. have become a safe haven for criminals, particularly violent sex offenders.
And while the rate of sexual assault is high for all populations, Native American women and children are significantly more likely to fall victim than non-tribal citizens.
Our crime and investigative reporter Renee Cooper joins us to continue our special report about the correction system on tribal lands. Renee?
Hi, Nicholas and Lauren. It's worth spending an evening discussing sexual violence. It's a horrific tragedy that continues to lie under the surface in North Dakota, and it goes unpunished because of those jurisdictional and even physical barriers that lie between victims and justice.
Amy Bunke is an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, but lived many years on the North Dakota side of the Standing Rock Reservation. That's where she met her ex-husband and the man who repeatedly raped her daughter, Ron, his horse's Thunder.
The nights are very hard. You know, I sit up late and I think about it, and I don't cry in front of my kids, but I cry at night a lot, because how could you do that to your own child?
We'll leave Bunke's daughter out of the story. She's only 16 years old.
And I think it started happening when she was 7.
Bunke didn't find out until her daughter was 13. She's been in and out of the hospital and inpatient psychiatric treatment facilities ever since for multiple suicide attempts.
No child should have to live in fear like that.
And this story is all too common for Native women and children.
There are anecdotes of young women being told by their mothers or grandmothers that being raped is a rite of passage. And how disturbing is that?
Associate Justice Grant Christensen says sexual violence is so institutionalized, this has become a coping mechanism for tribal communities. North Dakota Representative Ruth Buffalo says it's almost impossible to know just how prevalent sexual assault and rape are. It's very underreported. But she says we know one thing.
84% of Native women will have experienced some form of violence within their lifetimes, and so that's really troubling as a mom, as a big sister, as a cousin.
While Bunke is a part of that statistic, the abuse of her daughter actually happened, for the most part, off of the reservation in Bismarck. So the case is currently in the process of being tried by the state. And while the outcome may not be perfect, some sort of prosecution is much more likely. Christensen tells me on tribal lands, there's incentive for non-native predators to specifically target Native women and girls because the tribe nor the state can prosecute them, leaving just the federal government. But the federal courts and prosecutors are hours away in Bismarck or Fargo.
There are stories of individuals who openly admit that they'll enter the reservation and they'll ask a woman, are you a member? Are you an Indian? And if they say no, they'll pass on a potential target.
Former U.S. Attorney Tim Purdon says a little improvement came in 2013 with the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Now, under VAWA, when it comes to domestic violence crimes against Native women, even if the offender is non-Native, tribal governments can prosecute them.
A really important tool to empower the local governments to protect their citizenry.
The National Congress of American Indians created a 5-year report following the reauthorization. And for the first time, there is some data. What it shows, more than 1 in 3 Native women will be raped in their lifetime.
Those numbers are so staggeringly, mind-bogglingly difficult for the country to kind of recognize because they're so much higher than the proportions for any other racial or ethnic group.
In those 5 years between 2013 and 2018, the 18 tribes that have implemented this special jurisdiction together have reported 143 arrests of non-native sexual offenders. 52% were convicted.
We have definitely seen an increase in the number of non-Indians that are prosecuted here on the reservation.
The Standing Rock Sioux tribe is one of 2 tribal nations in North Dakota to have fully implemented VAWA as of this report. But it is limited. Tribal courts only have jurisdiction in cases of intimate partner violence. So if a woman was sexually assaulted by a non-native person she's never met before, it would still have to be referred to the U.S. Attorney for prosecution, meaning criminals stopping through are still immune.
For decades, the federal government refused to go out, would just decline to prosecute the cases, wouldn't even investigate because it would take so long to get out to the reservations.
First of all, is that true?
Well, to characterize it, taking up less, I can tell you this, it's one of the top priorities of our office.
U.S. Attorney Drew Wrigley says they're among the hardest cases to prosecute, but assured me his office will only decline a case that does not have sufficient evidence to prove. But the impact doesn't end with a sexual predator behind bars.
If I have a criticism, a serious criticism of the Department of Justice, it's that they have not invested the resources in victims and witness protection.
Former U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp says beyond prosecution, we have to address the lasting impacts of trauma in a population that suffers a lot of abuse.
This is tragic. We're here in Bismarck. If something happened or in Mandan, we would have trained advocates who would come in and provide you with the information and the assistance you needed as a victim. Is it perfect? No, but it is way beyond what you would receive in a tribal setting.
Purdon says those resources need to exist on tribal lands, and tribal governments need to be given the tools to prosecute at a local level.
To think that justice can be delivered from Bismarck or from Fargo for cases that arise hundreds of miles away in Belcourt on the Turtle Mountain Reservation or in Newtown or even just 50 miles away in Standing Rock, it's a world removed. Now, there's important responsibilities, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, the BIA, they need to work hard at what they do. But the system itself moves forward when we empower the local authorities of the tribal government.
Representative Buffalo says change is happening for the better.
We're resilient people, but there's a growing movement within Indian country to have young professionals leave, get educated, come back and make your community better.
A start in the long battle ahead to improve the lives and expectations of young Native American women.
As for justice for Amy Bunke's daughter, his horse's Thunder is expected to appear before a jury in February. Bunke says she will be in court with her daughter every step of the way. And there are some services available, specifically for tribal members who are victim of sexual assault and domestic violence. The First Nations Women's Alliance was formed in 2011. And Lauren and Nicholas, although it's headquartered in Devil's Lake, they provide advocacy, transportation, shelter, and other support throughout the state. And I've got those locations and information over on our website, kxnet.com.
Renee Cooper, thank you very much.
And no matter where a sexually violent crime is prosecuted, forensic evidence has to be collected right away to have a case in any court. And doing that on the front end is an ongoing challenge on tribal lands.
Within 72 hours of the crime, a sexual assault nurse examiner has to conduct a forensic exam and collect what's commonly known as a rape kit. It includes swabs of DNA evidence from a victim's body, clothes, and other personal belongings.
When victims go to a hospital in Bismarck or Minot, a sane nurse is equipped to do that. When somebody who has been sexually assaulted goes to a tribal facility, it's not likely. Although there is an Indian Health Services hospital on Standing Rock, former BIA officer Amber Johnson says she had to send victims to Bismarck.
Do you think it deters women, children, even men from going and getting those tests done? That
Yes.
they have to?
Definitely, because there's been people that they say, well, because they would say, well, hey, we'll get you right up there or whatever, and they're scared about being stuck in Bismarck afterwards, or they have kids maybe, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do with my 5 kids? Will I go for an examination? It's like, well.
Standing Rock in-house lawyer Erin Shanley says that sane nurses come and go on the reservation. She says tribal and federal victim advocates are available for members, but there are never enough.
Minot police are investigating